That's really important for 4 years before I start walking.
All right, so, our next topic, a couple different topics in one. Brittany Jones is here, she is gonna be talking about, finding food freedom and some yoga topics. She was here a couple years ago and did a yoga demonstration. I was just explaining how our new facility's working, and a couple years ago, down at the restroom, and it worked out pretty good down there, but it, worked very well, because they took all the mats out down there, so we plywood floor, so we'll transition the second half of the next topic and next door again back into the weight room. So we're happy to have her here. She's a personal trainer, wellness coach, wears many hats, and like I say, when I get a great presenter, I always invite them back. She was here a couple years ago, so welcome back to our seminar.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here, you guys. Like you said, my name is Brittany. I'm a certified personal trainer, nutrition coach, and wellness coach. Definitely have done a lot in the industry, been in it for about 10 years now. Is that kind of echoing? So, yeah, what I want to talk about today is, good, okay.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about today is finding food freedom, like Bob mentioned, and it kind of is a funky topic, so you're hearing it and probably like, what? What does that even mean? So I've got a handout for you guys today, and we're going to start with an activity, because I just want to get your guys' brains kind of firing a little bit and thinking about some of this stuff. So I'm just going to hand you a little pile if you just want to pass back. Probably have way too many, but I'll just hand you guys. Okay, so what you're going to notice on this sheet, the very, very first thing, like I said, that we're going to do is an activity. So what I want to do, like I mentioned, is get your guys' brains thinking about not only what food freedom means, but at first just thinking about some of the emotional connections that we have to food. So on the top left-hand side of this sheet, it says, what do you think or experience when I say? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to list off some different foods, and I literally just want you to write down the very first thing that you think about. So the first one that I'm going to say is burger. Write down what you think when I say the word burger. So as an example, for me and my husband have date night. Not that often because we have a 10-month-old, but when we do have a date night, a lot of times we either make burgers at home or we go out for burgers. So for me, I would write down date night or fun or love, something along those lines. Okay? Now the next one that I'm going to say is broccoli. What do you think right away when I say broccoli? I don't really like broccoli, so I'm kind of like, ugh, right? Next one, cake. Next one, pancakes. What do you think of when I say pancakes? The next one is Brussels sprouts. Yeah. Someone back there does not like Brussels sprouts. Next one is salad. Next one is bacon. And the last one is cinnamon roll. Okay, so now what we're going to do on the right-hand side, it says, how do you feel emotionally and maybe even a little physically after you eat these foods? So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to say all those foods again, but instead of just what do you think about, now I want to think about how you feel after you eat them. Okay, so a completely different answer will be on that right-hand side. So let's go back through. Burger. How do you feel emotionally or maybe physically after you eat a burger? Are you bloated? Do you feel gross? Or are you like, no, I feel great after I have a burger. I love burgers. I love everything about it. Okay? Next one is broccoli. Third one is cake. Next one is pancakes. And be honest, okay? Be honest with yourself. No one's looking at your sheet. I took my glasses off, so I can't even see the papers in front of you. Next one is Brussels sprouts. How do you feel after you eat Brussels sprouts? Next one is salad. Next one is bacon. And the last one is cinnamon roll. So, okay, now what we're gonna do is I want you to look and think about the connection between the line on the left and the line on the right. So, like I mentioned, for me, burger means date night. But maybe after I eat a burger, I feel really bad about myself. So when I think about having a burger, I get really happy and excited about it. But then when I eat it, I feel like garbage because I'm like, oh, why did I have a burger? So you see how those two things, like, they don't coexist well together. So what I want you to do, like I said, is just kind of look through that list. Take the next 30 seconds or so, just look through that list. Notice what that list looks like to you. And you don't have the foods next to it, but we can kind of see that they just don't really match up, right? So does anybody have, okay, go ahead. Is that better?
Too quiet.
Too quiet now?
Oh, did you mute it? I think it's muted. No, I can hear you.
Better?
Sounds like it's off. Hit the power button.
I'll talk a little bit louder. I've taught group fitness my whole life. So again, the connection between those two foods and the thoughts and the emotions that we experience are so very different. So again, as you look through those, are you noticing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay. So what I really want to talk about is trying to find a way that we can find food freedom. Where maybe the emotions that we feel and think when we're thinking about a food can match how we feel after we have that food. Okay? Am I making sense so far a little bit?
Let's do that again.
So I want to match, well maybe not match, but I want you guys to get to the point, and this takes a lot of time, where we maybe think about a food and have the same exact emotion as when we get done eating that food. So if you correlate burger with date night, at the end of date night, still feel good, right? So one thing that we're going to talk about in a little bit is getting rid of guilt and losing that guilt around eating. And for some of you, this might not resonate with you. You might be like, I literally don't feel bad after I eat anything. And that's great. That means you've already found food freedom. And maybe right now you just get to think about what you're going to eat for lunch later, okay? But for most people, I would say 99% of the clients that I've worked with over the course of the last 10 years, this is where I have to focus a lot of my energy on. And it's so cool when you get to the point where someone doesn't feel that guilt after they eat certain foods. Does anybody want to share one that kind of stuck out and was shocking to them at all? You don't have to, but I just thought I'd ask. Nobody? Okay, that's totally fine. Sometimes it's kind of awkward, right? You're like, oh, I really feel bad about this one. I want to point out another one of my own personal ones, okay? So for me, I don't necessarily enjoy eating salads, okay? And as a nutrition coach and a personal trainer, everyone's always like, oh, you must eat so many salads. I actually really don't enjoy them. I don't like eating them. So when I go into eating a salad, I'm like, ugh, God, I'm not gonna like this. But when I get done eating a salad, I feel good, right? The word that I would use is clean. I feel like good. My body feels really fresh and clean. So for me personally, I need to get rid of that negative mindset, right? Another thing that I want to mention too, and this is kind of a whole nother topic, but just to get your brains thinking a little bit about it, is sometimes foods that we label as healthy may not sit well with you personally. So I've had clients that I've worked with, and even myself, where broccoli, for example, is on our list in here. Broccoli can be really sensitive to some people's stomachs. So maybe in your head you think, broccoli, that's good, that's healthy, I feel really, a positive connection to that. Then when you eat it afterwards, you're like, yeah, I did a really good thing. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, oh my God, my stomach is killing me. So we've got to be in tune with our body at the same time and recognize when our body is telling us, this food just isn't sitting well with me right now. Because we all have different bodies and they all respond to things very, very differently. I can eat a brownie and not feel bad afterwards. My mom eats a brownie, she sneezes 36,000 times afterwards because she's allergic to something chocolate. We don't really know what it is, but she's allergic to something. So again, there's these different reactions that our body has, so knowing that about yourself is really, really important, okay? So moving on a little bit, what I want to talk about is diet culture next. Who in here has tried a diet before? Yeah, me too. Who's tried more than one diet before? Yeah. Who's tried one very recently? And you're like, oh, me, right? Our society and our culture is so revolved around diet. I'm sure right now if you popped open your phone and scrolled through Facebook, just one little scroll, there'd be something about some sort of diet or shake that you should try or something along those lines. And I think it's great in a sense of we want to be healthy and we're all trying to do something to make ourselves better and to be healthy. But that connection to that diet culture and feeling like we always have to be on a diet, that's hard. That puts a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect and feel a certain way. And it puts labels on foods, right? So if you are doing the ketogenic diet, you look at carbs as bad, and you look at proteins and fats as good. But then if you're doing, let's say, another type of diet, I don't know, I can't think of one off the top of my head that has like carbs being super good. But so do you see how like you have to fit a certain mold to think that these foods are good and these foods are bad? Next week you could try a completely different diet where now that food is good and this one is bad. So those good and bad labels don't really make sense, right? Because if you take all of those diets away, it's just food, right? It's just food to fuel our bodies, okay? So one thing that I try to get my clients to work on, and friends and family, everybody, and myself, is trying not to say things like, oh, I shouldn't eat that, that's bad. You guys ever said that before? Yeah, same. Maybe even like, oh, I shouldn't eat this, but whatever. I'm just gonna do it. Like, there's just, you could hear the negativity behind that, right? We go to a party, we bring cake, but then afterwards we're like, God, I shouldn't have brought that. Well, then why did we? You were excited about bringing it, you were pumped about making it, you looked up the recipe, you made the food, then you feel bad about it. So if we can change our mindset behind, again, how we go into it versus how we end with it, and just get rid of that guilt, we can just feel so much better at the end of the day. One thing that I want to say is, I am the first person to tell you, though, that I try to get everybody to eat a natural, whole foods. Those are the best way to fuel your body, right? Shop it around the outside of the grocery store. Try not to go down aisles when you're in the grocery store. My biggest tip, don't go to the grocery store hungry, okay? Have eaten a good meal, that's the biggest thing. But again, those whole foods are so important to nourish your body. We want to make sure that we are fueling ourselves with the correct energy to get us through our days. We all know those things. But if we can take away the negative stigma around enjoying ourselves as well, think about how much joy you might have in your life. So let's say you leave a birthday party, it's your cousin's kid's first birthday, whatever, I don't know. And you have cake, and you had so much fun at the party, and then you drive home. Oh, God, I shouldn't have eaten that piece of cake. Well, why? It was our first birthday party. How much fun was that? Like, it's great. It was such a good time. So if we can just get rid of the stress that we internally cause ourselves, because no one's telling you, you know, you shouldn't have eaten that piece of cake on the way home. We're telling ourselves that, right? We said it here and here. And so if we can just get rid of that and try to get rid of that stigma that we put on ourselves, again, just imagine how much more joy we can have in our lives. And one thing that I want to say too is that this takes a really, really, really long time. So it's easy for me to come up here and just talk to you guys about it. But practicing that is a whole nother story. So I've got some lines there at the bottom of that sheet for you guys, and I'm going to give you some tips and some recommendations and some ideas, but this is all going to look very, very different for each one of you. So the first thing that I want you to write down on the very top line is your experiences or what you maybe have a negative mindset towards with food. So what is it that you need to find food freedom with? So take a couple of minutes and just jot down whatever you're thinking about right now. And again, this might not resonate with everybody in here, and that's just the nature of the beast, right? So. So again, what you guys are writing down right now is what you're going to maybe personally work on. And I challenge you to work on that thing, right? Or whatever's kind of your block right now. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna give you some tips and ideas and some recommendations that you can maybe work on. Some of them you might be able to take into your life, and some maybe not, okay? And that's okay. I want you to know that. One thing again that I want to mention one more time is making sure that we're kind of finding that balance between whole natural foods and then enjoying ourselves. Having that cake at your cousin's kids, whatever, I don't know who I said earlier, but that first birthday party, right? So have you guys heard of the 80-20 rule with nutrition? Be good 80% of the time, live your life the other 20%. I like to kind of use 80 or 90 to 10 to 20% rule. And what I'll kind of give you with that is, if you are in a place where you're like, you know what, I'm really, really comfortable with where I'm at right now with my fitness and my health and my weight and all of that stuff, live your 80-20 life, okay? If you're like, you know, I've got some things that I maybe want to work on, I kind of want to lose some weight right now, or I really, really want to work on getting my fitness levels up, or whatever that is, now maybe you're going to do 90-10. Okay, so you're still going to live your life and have some treats 10% of the time, but maybe just 90% of the time you're going to focus on those whole and natural foods. So that's where that range kind of comes in, okay? So again, that's going to be personal for every single person in here, and your goals might look a little bit different than the person next to you, okay? So let's see. Okay, now let's go back to that guilt that we were talking about a little bit ago. So whatever you kind of wrote down on that first line is maybe what you feel a little bit guilty about within your nutrition. And again, different for everybody, and whatever you wrote down is real for you, and you're meeting yourself where you are right now. But what I want to mention is that guilt causes stress. And then we've heard cortisol before, our stressor hormone that's released in our body when we are under stress. It doesn't matter what the stress is. It can be a tiger chasing you in the woods. It can be, or jungle, I guess. It can be relationship stress. It can be stress from the kids, maybe, that you're teaching. Or it can be stress from guilt that you've placed on yourself by enjoying a first birthday party. It is all exactly the same, the chemical reaction, the chemical releases that are happening inside of your body. What that can cause is inflammation. And we all know that inflammation isn't good for our body. We wanna bring our inflammation and our stress levels down to kind of slow down that cortisol in our body. Cortisol is stored right here. So a lot of times, this is kind of where we end up storing body fat because that's kind of where our cortisol sits around in our body too. But again, that guilt doesn't get us anywhere. It actually just holds us back. So when we actually say it out loud and we hear it, we're like, yeah, why do I feel so guilty when I eat these foods that I'm enjoying, right? So some tips. Try to make a plan for yourself. One of the biggest things that when it comes to working on your fitness and your nutrition is having a plan, right? We just don't go into things blind. Just like when you guys are planning your day for your students, you don't just wing it, right? You don't just show up and like, I hope this goes well, right? We have a plan. We know what we're gonna do. We know how we're gonna start. We know the middle. We know our end goal, and we work our way through that entire process. So having a plan with your nutrition is also really important. And I don't just mean meal prepping on Sundays and having those healthy meals planned. Plan for that 10% or that 20% that you're gonna enjoy. Have something to look forward to, right? So if you know what, this weekend's a Super Bowl, and I'm gonna have something, I'm gonna have nachos, and it's gonna be great, I'm gonna really enjoy it. So you know that. You go in knowing that you've got this plan to enjoy that food, and try not to feel stress and guilt afterwards. So I challenge you guys to do that this weekend with the Super Bowl, if you're watching, I don't know. So again, having a plan for yourself to find that balance. And the biggest thing is, like I mentioned earlier, meeting yourself where you are right now. So if you're like, I don't even know where I am, I've got no clue, I've tried every diet under the sun, I've tried every workout program, and I just still don't feel good. Meet yourself there. Start from square one. It's okay. Everybody has a different start line, but we've got to start somewhere. We can't compare ourselves to someone's finish line, or maybe they're wherever they are. We've got to meet ourselves where we are today. Okay? So let's say you're just starting out, and you're like, okay, well, how do I set a goal? Maybe your goal is just going to drink one more glass of water today than you did yesterday. And then the next day, maybe you try to drink another glass, or whatever that is. Maybe you're someone who's like, I'm like crushing it right now. I feel really good. Okay, well, how can you add to what you're currently doing? Are you able to maybe add a little bit more vegetables in? Could you throw your dinner on a bed of spinach? I don't know. Again, what can you do to add to your nutrition? Okay? And then, as far as talking about those goals that you're setting, it's really important to not set goals that are out of reach for you. So, if you're someone right now who isn't meal prepping, who has no idea what they're gonna eat in the next week, if you're just kind of starting out, and that, again, that's not a bad thing, but if that's where you are right now, don't set your goal to be, I'm gonna meal prep, I'm gonna drink a gallon of water every single day, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, because holy crap, that's overwhelming, right? That's too much to take on right away. So if we scale it back, meet ourselves where we are, set a goal that you know that you can accomplish, at the end of the week, you're gonna feel so good because you'll probably have accomplished that, right? So when you set your goals, make them be something that you're not currently doing, but make sure it's something that you can accomplish. I also want to mention with that we all heard it takes 21 days to create a habit. Yeah? I think that's a load of crap. I think it takes as long as it takes to start a habit. And I will tell you this, so working out is my favorite part of the day. It's the only time of day where my kid's not scratching my face. You can see some of the scratches on my face. It is my time for me, okay? For the last, I just got a new job. I was telling Bob about. I just got a new job. For the last 4 months, I've been getting up every single morning at about 4:45 or 5, so I can sneak out before my kid wakes up, before my husband wakes up, go to the gym, and I come home. Oh, it's great. Last week, I didn't have to get up early. My schedule was a little bit later. You guys, I went to the gym at 6 p.m. every night. 4 months of getting up early and doing that. It was not a habit. I was only doing it because that was the only time. It wasn't a habit because I didn't continue it, right? So I did it for far longer than 21 days. Didn't stick, okay? So again, just know that if at the end of 21 days, you're like, God, I should be nailing this by now. Maybe not, and that's okay. It's fine, it's gonna take as long as it takes for you to nail down that habit, okay? The easier that habit is, the more attainable it is for you to reach, the more likely it will become a habit, okay? I usually recommend people to do one thing at a time. Once you nail that down, now move on, okay? Once it becomes, I don't even have to set that as a goal anymore. I'm just doing it. It's just part of my life now. Okay, cool, now what can we do? Now can we maybe look at how many steps you're taking in a day? Can we try to increase your steps on your Fitbit or your Apple Watch? Things like that, okay? Kind of just jumped from fitness to nutrition, but you get what I'm saying. And then the next big recommendation that I have, and this is huge, is giving yourself grace when you don't accomplish something, okay? So again, it's gonna take as long as it takes to nail some of these things down for yourself, okay? And if you have a moment of weakness, or a moment of, there is not one chance I'm leaving this couch today, that is fine. Because we all have days like that, we all have moments like that. And again, releasing ourselves from that guilt that we place on ourselves is so powerful. Again, it takes a really, really long time to put that into practice. And that's another habit, right, that we have. We habitually guilt ourselves into things. So we do have to break that. It's not gonna be an overnight thing. Maybe after this Super Bowl this weekend, you have pizza or wings or whatever it is, something that maybe you would consider in your 10 or 20%. And maybe you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna feel guilty about this. I feel really good actually. And the next day, you are late for work and you grab a donut on your way, and then you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have done that. Yesterday you got that guilt over with, but today it didn't work. Again, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't stress yourself out about it. It will come. It takes time. Everything that we do is a habit. Okay? Am I making sense still? Okay, good. Last but certainly not least is consistency. So when people ask me, because I get this question all the time, I would say probably 10 to 20 people a week ask me, well, what's the secret though? If you had to put one thing on it, is it nutrition? I'm like, no, it's consistency. Sticking to that 80-20 or that 90-10 consistently every day. That's where we're gonna get goals. That's where we see results. That's where we're gonna feel our best, do our best, and really be your best self. Because who in here let's say you're feeling really guilty about something. You think you're your best self? Are you nice? I am a horrible person to be around if I feel guilty about something, right? So think about how you can find the best version of yourself, what that looks like to you, and try to just wash out all of that other negative energy that, again, we surround. A lot of times it's surrounding the nutrition and the foods that we put into our body. And I won't sit here and say that it is all easy, because it is so not. It's hard, it's challenging, and every single day you'll probably have something maybe that you're working on. For me, I forgot to pack a snack before I came here, so I was eating peanut butter in my car. It's like, dang it, I forgot my snack. So there's always gonna be Joy.